Welcome, 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 everyone, to the Improvly Speaking podcast. I'm your host, Dana Gowan. I'm so excited that you're joining today. You're going to be so excited that you're tuning in today because we have a fabulous guest on, the most amazing guest. They're all the most amazing guests, but you'll see, this is the most amazing guest. I'm so excited to jump in and get this episode underway. If you are new, joining us for the first time, let me give you a little spiel about what this podcast is all about, a few goals that we have on this podcast. One, to help people understand the benefits of improvisation. Two, to demonstrate how improv shows up in all aspects of our lives, and really how we are all improvisers, even though we might not call ourselves that. And three, to inspire people to try new things, get out of their heads and comfort zones, and find creative outlets and passions that can help them. And our guest today is just amazing. I'm so excited she's here. She is a very experienced speaker and even the world champion of public speaking. You may not have known that that's a thing. It is a thing in the Toastmasters world. It is a very prestigious title. Let me tell you all about our special guest today, Ramona J. Smith. Ramona is an international award-winning public speaker who holds the very prestigious title, I've already told you, of the 2018 World Champion of Public Speaking. Her stage presence and ability to captivate and connect with individuals from across the globe of all races and ethnicities has made Ramona one of the most sought-after public speakers in the world. She has given keynote addresses in Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Oman, Qatar, Kuwait, Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, Malaysia, Brazil, Sri Lanka, India, and many more added to that list. What an incredible list that is. Ramona has a bachelor's degree in public relations with a minor in marketing from Baldwin Wallace University. Ramona spends a great deal of her time traveling the world, as you can see and hear, delivering encouraging messages of hope, triumph, perseverance, leadership, and love. When she is not touring the world, you can find Ramona coaching and training aspiring speakers to go after their goals and dreams. In addition to being an educator, author, and poet, her greatest joy is being mother to her miraculous son, Ryan. That is so sweet. She was born and raised in Cleveland, Ohio, and she is now based out of Houston, Texas. Please welcome the impeccable and incredible Ramona J. Smith. Yay, Ramona, welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be with you.
I feel like we should shake hands like Toastmasters, do the trade-off of the podium. I'll relinquish control of the podium to you. I feel like I got very Toastmasters-y, but I'm really excited that you're here.
I'm excited to be here. Thank you so much.
Yeah. And Ramona, I've got to tell you, I'm going to fangirl out here for sure. I've been in Toastmasters now for 8 years. I've been following your journey. I watched the 2018 World Championship of Public Speaking live. I wasn't there in person, but I watched it live through streaming. I'm one of those, I purchased the streaming package and I watched it online. And I remember, listen, I'm gonna nerd out here. I would take notes. I would take notes on every speaker and I'd be like, they did this well, they did this well, I didn't like this. I'm not a judge or anything. I'm just taking notes, trying to learn how to get better. And then you came on, I think around the fifth out of 10 spots. And I was like, oh, she's got this. If she does not win, something's rigged, something's up. And I know some funky things happen with the points and the judging sometimes. I was like, oh, she's got this. That was the most incredible speech I've seen. But I was just like, oh, there's no topping that. So I am just so happy that you won. What an amazing speech and experience you had with that.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. It was definitely a moment. It was a big moment. So I'm glad you got to witness it. It was a lot of history, that year with 3 women winning. Well, it was a repeat this year with the 3 women of color winning and the woman president. It was like an exact repeat in 2023, but we made a lot of big history in 2018. So I'm glad you got to witness that. It was a lot of girl power.
Yes. Oh, that's awesome. I did not watch it this year, but I know you were there, right? So you got to see that being made? Or no, you weren't
I
there?
was I was supposed to be there in person, but some travel issues stopped me from being
Ah.
in person, but I was still able to show up virtually.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah. I'm sure your virtual presence was still great, and it was wonderful to have you there, part of it. And it's kind of one of those things, you're always gonna be a part of it each year, right? That's part of the
Always.
title holder position.
Yes, for sure. I plan on it. I mean, I really wanted to get to the Bahamas, but
Uh-huh, yeah. Oh, you know what? I think it's in LA next year, if I have that correct.
it is. It's in oh my goodness. Where did it all begin? Okay, it's slipping my mind right now, but it's definitely in California, LA area. But yes.
Uh-huh. So, hopefully you can come back and we can meet in person. I'll give you a big hug if you're accepting hugs. Yeah,
Yes, I
so,
am.
I may have to attend that
Do
convention
it. Do it.
next year. Yeah, it's so close. I have no excuse, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
Well, and I have to say too that you were doing well, you're still on your world tour. You're always giving speeches, presentations to groups and organizations, but you were on a big kind of world tour after you won your title. And in 2019, May 2019, you spoke at the District 1 Toastmasters conference. And I remember you gave the keynote, you did a Q&A session in the afternoon, and also, I don't know if this was like a formal photo op thing you were doing, but at the end, like people were just taking pictures with you. Like people were lined up to take pictures. And I did the whole like, oh, I don't want to bother her. I don't want to, there's so many people in line. She wants to go. Like, I don't want to do it. So I didn't take a picture with you. And I'm kicking myself a little bit now because wouldn't it be so cool to be like, I got a picture with Ramona and now we're talking on the podcast 4 years later. That would have been a cool story.
Well, we can take a screenshot now, and then at next year's convention, we
Yes.
can start to build up our collection.
We'll take that selfie after this episode for sure. I will not forget that. And I will ask for it this time. Lesson learned, ask for the picture when appropriate, of course, like if people are eating and stuff, whatever. But ask for the picture when it feels right, because you never know when it might come in handy again, right?
Yes, for sure. And I'm not like that. I love pictures. Let's take a million pictures. Let's take 62 selfies. I'm here for it. I feel like I'm here for the memories for sure.
Awesome, and I know people appreciate that because 'cause you've really given so much inspiration to people, and I know they appreciate getting a picture with you and getting to meet you in person and stuff. I know I have.
I love it.
Well, I've buttered you up so much, and honestly, all genuine buttering upness because I'm just so excited to talk with you, and really, I wanna hear about your journey. I know that you won the title, but I wanna know a little bit before and after. So, selfishly, I'm gonna ask, but also for our listeners to know, I mentioned in the intro that you are the 2018 world champion of public speaking, but I want to set the stage for what that means for our listeners here who might be non Toastmasters listeners. What does that mean to be the world champion of public speaking? So it means that you beat out over 30,000 people who competed for this title. There are several levels that you have to win in order to continue. There's club, area, division, district, semifinals, and then the top 10 finalists. I think that's how they're still doing it. It might be a little bit different, but that's what your path was. And you had to win each time to keep going. And for me, watching and knowing this, it always seems like it's kind of like winning the lottery, not in the sense of luck. You just happened upon this title, found it on the street, and you're like, oh, cool. You worked really hard for it. But you have to connect with enough judges to get the right amount of points to have the most points to win. And that can be really tough on an international stage with such a diverse panel of judges casting their votes. Just honestly, winning is such a huge achievement. Can you give our listeners a sense of your training and prep time that you had for this competition?
Absolutely. I didn't hire a coach or hire a trainer or anything like that. It was really a lot of natural talent and it was a lot of Toastmasters practice because I
Yeah.
had been in Toastmasters for many, many years prior to competing. I joined the Toastmasters in 2010. I had 8 years experience at that point. And it was through a few failures that I learned more strategic techniques and the formula that these speeches have to incorporate. I mean, you don't have to, but most of the winning Toastmaster speeches have several different things. I call it the formula that makes it a winning Toastmasters speech. And I want people to understand the difference between the Toastmasters culture and speaking at a corporate event or speaking at a
Yes.
school. Toastmasters is its own culture. So the same way I give a world championship Toastmaster speech is not going to be the same way I deliver a speech to a group of 17-year-old girls in Florida. It's going to
Right.
be completely different. But as far as practice time and prep time, I believe that the club contest was in January. I want to say January or
Mhm.
February, and the world championship was in August. So you have all those months every time you win to continue to prepare. The best method of continual preparation was applying the feedback that I got after each win, winning at the club level, applying the feedback and the constructive criticism, taking it with a grain of salt, because you can't take everybody's opinion or you will rewrite your speech a billion times, but
Uh-huh.
taking the tips that really resonated with me and the ones I was like, okay, that makes sense. And then making those changes and then delivering it at the next level and then doing the same thing with trusted people. I got all my feedback from Toastmasters. Anybody outside of Toastmasters is irrelevant because you don't know what other Toastmasters are looking for. That way, I was able to get it from the perspective of people who've seen winning speeches, people who get the feels and the goosebumps. One of my mentors, she was actually one of my district leaders. We knew that it was a great speech when she got goosebumps.
Oh, amazing.
Then when she got the goosebumps, we were like, yes. But I reached out to a couple of world champions after I continued to ascend, but we're busy. Like we're all
Yeah.
busy. And then some of us just have fees that are ridiculous. And God bless them. But I'm not paying you $1,500 to teach me how to win or lose. Like unless you can guarantee me a win, I'm not paying you thousands of dollars to teach me something that I could, learn for free.
Which you did. You got
Right? I didn't really have I mean, I practiced a lot. I was teaching at the time, so I practiced a lot during my planning times, during after school time, and I would do Zoom sessions with some of my Toastmasters members as well.
Oh, that's impressive because Zoom wasn't as big of a thing in 2018, so you were utilizing it though. Yeah. And that's such a good point with trusted feedback because when you're getting up in the levels and the field is narrowed, people wanna help. They wanna give their feedback, but sometimes too much feedback is not helpful, and then you end up, like, rewriting and editing, and you're on edit version 105, and it's like, "Ugh, this feels like too much." Like, how did you find those, like, trusted people to listen to and kinda weed out or put the blinders on the rest?
I was lucky because they found me. I was
Okay,
new to the
yeah.
district. I was new to District 56. I had just moved to Houston December of 2017. And then I
Mm.
joined District 56 in January of 2018. Then when I started to compete and I got to the club level, at the area level, when I won, there were several women in the audience and they said, who is she? We need to take her under our wing. And
Mm.
I was blessed to be found by Rose and Cheryl and Kathy. And those were my three mentors and leaders and sisters and friends. And then Ellie came along as well. So I was able to be found by these beautiful leaders and Toastmasters.
That's incredible. And I have to just ask because this is an improv podcast. It's a fusion of improv and public speaking. And we'll get to more of the improv part later. But, were there any improvised moments in your speeches at any point? Or did you have a good grasp? Like you, maybe not word for word, but you kind of knew where you were going for your 5 to 7 minute speech?
Two things. One is that year I also competed in the table topics
Oh, yeah.
competition.
Mhm.
And I made it to the district level. I think I placed like 3rd at the district level in 2018. That's all improv. But I had a lot of fun with that, which is how I was able to make it to that district level. But on the world championship stage, I am the type of speaker where I like to script it out like an actress. I like
Yeah.
to write my script. I like to memorize it word for word. I like to know exactly what I'm going to say. That's just how I enjoy doing my speaking and my speeches and my presentations. However, I know it so well and I practice it so much that I can recite it in my sleep. That way, if there's any distractions or any technical difficulties, I know exactly where I can stop and
Mhm.
pick right up where I left off. So in the speech, at the end of it, when I said, "We're still standing," and the audience said,
Yay.
"Yeah, yeah, yeah," I
Mhm.
had no idea that was going to happen because I
Ah.
can't practice with the audience.
Yes, what a genuine moment too it was, yeah. Well, and that it takes special acting abilities because you do know it. You've said it so many times that sometimes it can feel scripted for some people because 'cause you're like, "Okay, they're robotic in this now." So to take that amount of energy and certainly on the big stage and the big moment, you rose to the occasion, of course. But, yeah, it can take some special acting, but I love hearing that there was an improvised moment there, like, you reacted, a genuine reaction to the audience, that's so cool.
It felt so right. I
Uh-huh.
was shocked, but it felt so good. So I just went with it. I'm like, let me acknowledge them for rocking with me. Like,
Uh-huh.
thank you. Appreciate that.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, and I imagine the first year of being world champion of public speaking, it had to be a whirlwind, right? Just how did you handle that first year, the craziness of the new title?
Honestly, and we'll go into acting for a little bit. I've
Yeah.
been wanting a big stage like this for a very long time. That's why I moved to LA in my early 20s because I wanted to be a star and I wanted to have these moments. And I used to practice. I used to live with an amazing couple in Santa Monica. And when they would go to work and I was all alone, I would practice. This was before the Ellen show was no more. I would practice for the Ellen show. I would stand in the living room and act like I was coming on her show as a guest and talk about all these amazing speaking engagements that I had and all my talents and gifts. But that was the manifestation. That was 8 years prior to winning
Wow.
the world championship of public speaking. And when it happened, I was like, this is my moment. I am going to embrace it. Another however, I was at a fork in the road because at that point I had moved to Houston to better my life and to finally get on track. And I was teaching. And I'm like, I wanted to teach for 5 years. I wanted to teach for 5 years. And then I wanted to focus on public speaking. But that didn't happen. And I remember sitting at my desk during my planning time and crying because I had gotten so many invitations to speak around the world, but I have these 198 students who I've
Mm.
dedicated myself to. So what do I do? What do I do? I sat there, I thought about it for a moment, and I said, do I want to limit myself to 198 students, or do I want to create a lasting impact on thousands, hundreds of thousands, potentially millions of people across the globe? And that was the day that I made the decision to just take it as far as I could. And that was as Shonda Rhimes would say, my year of yes. There weren't
Yeah.
too many places that I said no to, which is how I can ramble off all these different countries because anybody who wanted me to come speak and it wasn't conflicting with something I had already committed to, I said yes. I took it and I ran with it.
That's incredible. Yeah, I always kind of wondered if you had your speaking business set up beforehand because your business is called Ladybug Speaker, right? Did you have that set up before you won the title?
Ladybug is older than my son. I birthed Ladybug
Oh,
first and then came Ryan.
wow.
But
Nice.
with a business, if people don't know, especially with speaking, if they don't know you, they don't know you. They're not just going to have you come speak to their organization and you have no website, you have no credibility, you have no publications. It's very difficult to get your name out there when you don't have a huge platform and all these different media outlets screaming your name. But that's what Toastmasters did for me. They have an amazing public relations department, and they've been doing this for a long time, so they know what they're doing. And once I won, entrepreneur.com and Inc.com and Forbes.com and Business Insider and all types of news channels, and you can Google me and everything will pop up. That's when
Yeah.
everything took off for my business.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's incredible, and certainly that title gives so much credibility, but then you still have to, of course, work for it. I think I've heard you say this in interviews and other world champion title holders say, "Yeah, that title's great, but also, like, the outside non-Toastmasters world kind of recognizes the importance of the title, but also doesn't quite get it." So you still have to work and hustle and grind and earn the business for sure. How is it speaking in non-Toastmasters worlds and organizations?
I enjoy it because that's how I started speaking. I didn't start the business because of Toastmasters. I started the business because I genuinely had a passion for speaking. And Toastmasters have a certain expectation of your speech. They want the animation, they want the energy.
They want the polish.
They do. They want the polish, but sometimes that's not the best delivery for people who are coming to learn and take away what you have as an expert. They don't want to be entertained, they want to be informed. So, speaking in realms outside of Toastmasters, it helps me jump back into my teaching mode where
Yeah.
I can say, here are the objectives and these are the outcomes. I don't have to have an opening hook. I don't have to necessarily have the phrase that pays. I don't have to do all the elements of a great Toastmaster speech. I can really just go in and be myself and teach.
I imagine and assume that you are just phenomenal in every speech and presentation you give, because anything you are talking about, I'm sure, is very engaging and exciting to listen to.
Thank you. I'm genuine and I'm authentic and I speak from experience and I'm down to earth and I make it simple and I make it plain. And I think that's
Mhm.
what a lot of people like about me. I mean, I have the energy and I'm fun, but I don't try to come in using a lot of jargon. I don't try to make public speaking more than what it is. It can be
Yeah.
very simple if we just once we get over the nerves, it is very simple. I don't try to make it rocket science when it's just communication and connection, in my opinion.
I love that. Yeah. I want to jump back into pre world champion title times. You said you started your business in 2011. I mean, sounds like you really liked public speaking. Were you ever nervous about public speaking? What brought you to Toastmasters if you already had that public speaking business?
I was never afraid of public speaking. As a kid, I loved to be on stage, front and center.
I'm so jealous.
I loved it. Talent shows and plays and choir. I've always loved being in front of the audience. I always loved to entertain. And that's why I got into poetry and spoken word poetry, having that
Ah.
microphone in my hand, having that spotlight on me. I've always loved that. That's another reason why I moved to LA. I wanted to model, act, and speak. My sister actually was the person who introduced me to Toastmasters because when she was in college, she gave a speech and someone came up to her and said, "You had such and such amount of consider joining
Mm.
Toastmasters." And when I told her I wanted to be a speaker, she said, "That's wonderful, but consider joining Toastmasters to get, like you said, the professionalism and the polish." That's why I joined to become a better speaker.
I'm jealous of the spotlight. Like, I've learned now in my 30s, I'm 35, like, I would say probably around 30, like, around joining Toastmasters, being more comfortable with public speaking, I've learned to embrace the spotlight and, like, be not only good with the spotlight on it, but also like, "Yeah, spotlight's on me. I like this," kinda thing. But it's taken me 30 years to get to that. So I'm always jealous of people, and it's just different paths, but I'm just always jealous of people who were like, "Yeah, I didn't mind. I'd get on stage and do whatever. I didn't care." I'm like, "Oh, must have been so nice." It doesn't mean you didn't work hard, but I'm just like, "Oh, it took me so long to get there." And I honor that. That's amazing just to have that like want and feeling like the stage is mine. I want to be on it.
That was always me, and we all have our different talents. I'm very envious of people who are visionaries and strategic planners, and I'm learning and I'm building those skills. But I've never been a meticulous person. I've never been that person that can just break down and analyze. I've never been that person. So if that's something that you have my heart, and I envy that. That's not who I am. But give me a stage, I'm a rocket.
Yes, for sure. Yeah. And you mentioned that you bring authenticity to the stage and yourself, your true self to the stage. And I know you coach public speakers on reaching their goals. And I imagine that is a lot of goals that people have to do. So, in working with clients now in the past years, what are some of the goals that you have seen and heard from people, and how do you help them with that?
Many of my clients are in Toastmasters and they want to win the world championship of public speaking. I always say I cannot help you win. I cannot guarantee a win, but I can help you to formulate your speech. I can help you to organize it, structure it, add a little bit of humor, and get it up to par as far as a competitive Toastmasters speech. For people who may consider Toastmasters in the future but are not Toastmasters members currently, they want to eliminate those filler words. They want to be
Mhm.
more confident on stage. They want the organization, the structure, and the timing, because a lot of my clients, they like to speak from the heart. That's beautiful, but we are not at church. If someone is paying you thousands of dollars to share your information, we have to keep it respectfully in the time frame, learning how to be on time. And they want to learn how to be genuine and authentic and how to come across as real and confident on stage.
How do you help them with that? The genuineness and being authentic on stage? Like, do you have any exercises you do with them, or what do you have them focus on for that?
I have them focus on talking about things that they're actually passionate about. I feel
Yeah.
like a lot of new speakers, we want to speak about anything. Give me any stage, anywhere, any audience. I'm going to speak on whatever they want me to speak on. I do not recommend that. But I was like that when I was an early speaker.
Yeah.
I said I would talk to a box of rats in the middle of New York City if I could. I just wanted an audience. But I've learned that if you can niche down and narrow your speech topics and narrow your audience and really focus on what you're passionate about or what you're an expert or a master in, that authenticity is going to come through. It's going to shine because not only do you have the experience, but you have those personal stories that you can tell that are not forced, that are easy for you to remember, and that are going to really connect because the audience can sense when people are being fraudulent. If
Mhm.
you are not being your true self, the audience can sense that, and that's going to create a blockage. And you don't want that blockage. So talk about things that you actually like, things that you actually know about, and things that you can actually relate to and tell personal stories about. And it's going to help that genuine authenticity come out every time.
You mentioned timing of speeches. That is my problem. I used to be shy and quiet as a kid, like, do not put the spotlight on me. And ever since Toastmasters, I am a talker. I get this from my dad. I know I do. I am a talker, and I will talk your ear off, and I will talk till I see the red light, and I will keep on talking and talking and talking. And I guess, I don't know. I got a funny story for you here. This happened this year. I was competing in the area contest for the Tall Tales contest. Now, sometimes area doesn't get a lot of participants, maybe the clubs just don't have anyone they send. I was the only one competing in my area contest. So, I had it in the bag, right? Like, I'm the only one competing. All I had to do was finish on time.
Stay on time.
Guess what? I did not. I wanted to keep telling the story. It was a fun story. I had a lot of fun with it. Also, it was on Zoom. So my excuse there, if I have any excuse, is that time goes faster on Zoom and I spent too long on my intro and I didn't get into the physicality part that I wanted to. It also felt awkward on Zoom. I went over time and I disqualified myself from moving on. And I will say, I thought it was very funny. I know if I was a newer Toastmaster, I would have been devastated of like, "Oh, how could I do that? That was so silly of me." I would have used words like stupid and dumb. But I actually found it funny that I don't know, I had more to say and I just said it. But I need a lot of work on timing, clearly, right? Any tips on how to stay on time?
Practice, practice, practice.
Yeah.
Practice, practice, practice. And that is it's the most common answer, it's the most common response,
Mhm.
but it's true. And like I said, I like to keep things very simple because it's just like with anything you do. Let's take sports for example. The way you practice is the way you play. If you practice and you're going over time consistently, you're going to do that in the competition or you're going to do that when you get on stage. However, if you practice with that timing device and you cut yourself off when you see that red light, or you type it all out, all the words, and you go over to speechinminutes.com and you can see the
Oh,
word count and how long 900 minute I'm sorry, not 900 minutes, 900 words equals, for example, 10 minutes or something like that. You can see that, okay, the speech
yeah.
is only 5 to 7, so I need to eliminate this amount of words in order to get it in time. You can also use this new amazing AI app called Udly is going to help give you that feedback that you're looking for, and it's from a artificial intelligence perspective, so you don't feel judged and you don't feel bad about it, and it's going to be extremely objective. Timing is so crucial and so important, so I strongly recommend practicing, knowing how many words you have, how long that's going to take, and using some type of device where it could be your cell phone, the timer there, it could be the green, yellow, and red, like we use the Toastmasters, but something to where you can actually see, I just spoke for 14 minutes and I only have 7 minutes. Where can I edit and omit?
Thank you. I did not know. I've seen you post about Udly recently. I didn't know about speech in minutes, so I will check those out because I certainly have lots of room to grow as a speaker and facilitator in my business. But that is a consistent thing I keep running up against is timing. And I do a lot of exercises in my presentations, but I always want to cram in too much. And like you said, keep it simple. If I need to skip an exercise to have a better conclusion and like debrief and really ask people what they got out of it, I think that's more important than cramming in another exercise. But it'll take learning that and feeling that many, many times before I make the changes I need to. So I appreciate you saying that. Thank you. And I know I'm really kind of putting you on the spot with the coaching, but I've got one more kind of coaching, public speaking coaching question, if you don't mind keeping that coaching hat on for a second. But someone comes to you with, "Oh, I say a lot of filler words," and I know in the Toastmasters world, we like the polish. I mean, what's your thoughts and feelings about the filler words, and how do you help people get rid of those?
Some people outside of Toastmasters, they don't stress the usage
Mhm.
of filler words. They don't mind it. They say it's no big deal. In my opinion, as a professional speaker, if someone is paying you to give a presentation, you need to eliminate the filler words. If
Mhm.
if you're just speaking at a friend's wedding, or you it's just something casual and someone just asked you to speak, or it's nothing in a professional setting, fine. Say 1,000 ums, say a bunch of souls. It's gonna be a distraction, but it's a relaxed situation. But if you are in a situation where you are delivering a keynote, you are delivering a commencement speech, you are delivering a eulogy for a politician or someone important, if you are giving a powerful, impactful speech in front of a large audience, especially if you're getting paid for it, do the extra work and eliminate the filler words. I think that is doing an injustice to your audience for you to be lazy with your tongue. And this is me coaching. I'm kind of a tough coach, but
Uh-huh.
this is, you said the coach
That's
hat. This is not the friendship hat. And I take public speaking very seriously. It's my passion. It's what I love to do. And if I'm paying you 5,000, 10,000, 25,000, $50,000 for a keynote, and you can't polish your presentation up enough to not say, so, but 70,000 times, you're not a professional speaker, in my opinion. You may be a great speaker. You may be an entertaining speaker. You may be able to get a reaction out of the audience. You may be inspirational, but there's a difference between a public speaker and a professional speaker. The professional speaker is going to do those impromptu exercises. They're going to be that improvly speaker
Yeah.
who takes the time to, one, record yourself to see what are your crutch words. What are the words that you lean on most often when you're in between thoughts? Because that's just what a filler word is. It's just a bridge to your next thought. What are those words for you? Then doing those I think impromptu speaking is phenomenal for eliminating crutch words. Practicing. I tell my clients, you can do this with the kiddos, you can do this with your spouse, you can do this with your friends at game night. You pick a random item in the room. For example, that's a picture of a painting. Set the clock for 2 minutes. Speak about this completely off the cuff and have somebody record your filler words, and just do it a couple of times every week and see how you improve. Because once we are aware of it, we will start to stop ourselves. Like,
Yes.
oh, I just said, I just said, and it'll start to build that awareness so that when you are about to say right or alrighty, or, you'll stop yourself and you can pause instead of saying that filler word. That's all we have to do is pause, or we have to practice more so that it's seamless. In conclusion, welcome to my TED Talk. Filler words, you can eliminate those by becoming aware of which ones they are and by practicing speaking most of the times extemporaneously and off the cuff about random things, and knowing what your crutch words are and understanding how to pause instead of leaning on those specific words.
Thank you. Bravo. I appreciate that coaching tip. That was fantastic. And that's a good reminder because I record these podcast episodes and I hear my ums a lot and I'm like, where are those coming from? But it's a different thing with recording, but it's still like I can be polished on recording too. How do you feel like one or two here and there, whatever. But if it's a consistent, like you're getting told, you're saying multiple here's the trigger, here's when it happens. That's a good reason and rationale to make a change for the better.
Definitely. I definitely agree with that. Because some of us are unaware, especially
Yeah.
if we're new speakers, because it comes so naturally. The ums come so it's like a rhythmic. It's like a song.
Yeah.
I was walking down the street and I saw somebody. She picked up uh tissue. It just becomes like a sing song. It becomes a part of our speech.
Yeah.
And once we become aware of it and we actually can see the tally, like, sir, you said 72 ums in 2 minutes. That's an issue. Then we can start to put those best practices in place to start to eliminate some of them.
I love it. Thank you for all the coaching, the free coaching on here. I appreciate it. But that was amazing. And you mentioned welcome to my TED Talk. Where do you see your public speaking journey and business headed in the next few years?
My ultimate vision is to be the Black female Tony Robbins. That is my ultimate vision. I would love to do the work that he's doing. I would love to do the charity work that he's doing. I think he feeds like over 1 million people a year and he gives back to a lot of charities. Not sure if I want to have 100 and something businesses. And the speaking, the retreats, the transforming lives, the impact that he has left on so many people's lives, and the suicides that he's prevented, and the athletes that he's coached to become champions, and the political leaders and the religious leaders that he's coached. I definitely, that's my big vision. I would love to do a TED Talk. I'm pretty sure that's coming in the future. I don't have anything
Yes.
lined up just yet, but I'm pretty sure I'll be doing TED Talk soon. But just inspiring the youth, inspiring parents, inspiring as many people as I can so that they understand that life is hard, but you can do hard things. There's hope. There is value in the mistakes that we make. There are lessons learned through quote unquote failure. You just have to know who you are, accept who you are, embrace who you are, love who you are, and be gentle and kind with yourself, and then push yourself to achieve those things that you never thought you could.
I love it. And you're on track. You're on path. Certainly TED Talk. I know you would say yes and to that immediately. You're making the steps to do it. And I can't wait to see that in a few years. Keep manifesting. That's awesome.
For sure. I got to figure out which talk show I'm gonna practice for now that Ellen's off the air.
Right? I know. Well, and you don't have to limit to just one. You could go on all of them too.
Exactly. That's the plan. That is the plan. That is the plan.
Oh, I love it. Ramona, I want to give you a break because you've been coaching us a lot. You've been on stage, giving us the passion and the energy. Let's take a quick break, and I want to get into more about the impromptu, extemporaneous, improvly speaking. So let's talk about that right after the break. We'll be right back. All right, and we're back talking with Ramona J. Smith, the 2018 world champion of public speaking, getting so many good lessons and tips from her for free that she usually gives to coaching clients. So this is, I love this. This is such a treat. Ramona, thank you so far, and I can't wait to get into some impromptu speaking. So you mentioned that you love table topics. You competed in the table topics contest. So I can gather that your feelings about table topics are positive, but have you always liked extemporaneous speaking, or did you have to learn to practice that and get through that sticky part?
I had to learn to practice. I always enjoyed it, but at first I used to go over time
Mhm.
and I would get lost in my thoughts and I would just ramble and ramble. I didn't know how to mentally organize that short 2.5 minute speech. That's where Toastmasters came in because at every single meeting we have the table topics portion. That allowed me to learn little tiny tips and tricks. For example, you can walk slower up to the stage. Well, okay, well, in person. Yes. Via Zoom, not so easy, but in in-person meetings, they have to introduce you, they have to ask the question, and then as you walk up, we all clap. You can walk
Mhm.
a little bit slower to give yourself time to think. You can also restate the question, which gives you more time to think about what you want to say. In table topics, you don't know the question that they're going to ask you. You have no idea, but it gives you time to think of a story or think of a quote or something that can trigger a memory of something that you can share. I've been able to learn how to develop that skill of speaking off the cuff, which is so important in interviews and dating. Hello, somebody. And networking. Small talk, but intentional small talk is really what table topics is all about. I think that everybody should get more familiar with speaking off the cuff.
I hear that from a lot of people. Just they're like, "Oh, I'm fine with the slides. I'm good with the PowerPoint. The slides help me jog my memory and what I'm going to say." But once I get to that Q&A part, I am a nervous wreck, and I'm quoting people, summarizing what people have said, that they're a nervous wreck, that they're nervous about the uncertainty. They don't know what's going to be thrown at them, and it just really generates a lot of anxiousness and anxiety for them. So any thoughts for, I guess we put your coaching hat back on, but like for those who struggle with the Q&A, like how to get over that or how to help that fear?
Understand that you have more control than you think. If you are
Mm.
full of anxiety with a Q&A, get with the event planner or the hostess or the person who's going to be facilitating the meeting and say, "Hey, can we ask these specific questions?" Or try to get the questions in advance. That way you already know what the questions are going to be and you have time to prepare and practice. If you're not able to get the questions in advance, if you're not able to meet up with the facilitator and say, "Hey, ask me these questions," then practice with your teammates, practice with your family members, potential questions that the audience may ask. Role play, acting. Ask them to ask you random questions, and you may get some of those questions the day of your event when you have to do the Q&A. But even if you don't get those same specific questions, you'll have the practice to be mentally alert and aware, and you'll have the mental rehearsal to be able to pull from different experiences, and you won't just be punched in the face by questions that you had no idea were coming. So preparation and practice, that is the answer to being a better public speaker. Preparation and practice.
Well, and I feel that too with the preparation and practice, but also you mentioned failing, being nice to yourself as you fail, being gentle with yourself as you're making these changes. It does not happen right away. It takes a lot of failing and learning and growing. Growth happens from that failure. And I'm very impatient. So I'm like, oh, I messed up again. Like I get so upset, but it's like this is a long game here. Yes, you messed up here, but the next speech you give is going to be even better. And the next speech you give and Q&A you give is going to be even better. And it just keeps getting better.
For sure. And I really don't like the word failure
Yeah.
because that is just so negative and it's so discouraging. We'll just say experiences.
Love
We can
it.
say moments. I had a moment.
Uh-huh. I
I
like
don't want
that.
anybody to think that if something went wrong with tech or if you forgot your words or if your PowerPoint had errors, it's not a failure. You never fail. What is it? You never fail. You just learn or you win. So don't ever consider yourself a failure. Just consider it life experiences. If you are a perfectionist, then hire a coach. Then put in those extra reps, those extra hours. If you are a person who is a perfectionist and you don't want to have any errors, any flaws, then you have to put in that extra effort and that extra work.
Oh, that's me. That's me is the perfectionist. But I have been learning through improv to embrace the imperfections and realize that not all of them are detrimental to everything. Like I can embrace them and move on and even have a little fun with them. I'm curious, you mentioned you do acting, you've done acting. Have you taken any improv classes?
I have in not high school, in junior college, I took an acting course
Ah.
and we did a lot of improv there. I've done it a lot in just different roles. I used to work as a youth counselor at the YMCA. We had to do a lot of impromptu games. It's just a part of my life. In drama club in high school, we did a lot of improv. Absolutely, yes. I love it. I love being creative. I love expressing myself through my words and my body. I love taking myself to another place mentally and being able to just not care about what anybody else thinks and just run wild. I could be a child again. I could be a tiger if I want to be a tiger. I could be a little lamb if I want to be a lamb. I could be a cloud if I want to be a cloud. What does a cloud even do? I love this the freedom of my imagination to just let loose and be whoever or whatever I want to be.
I was just thinking what the space work is for a cloud. Like maybe you just float around, make a little noise.
Mhm. Mhm.
I've never had to be a clown on stage. That's a good one though. I like it. And yeah, I've started my improv journey. I've started doing improv about 3.5 years ago. I count a half. That half counts. Like we we
Mhm.
use that half for right now. But I mean, honestly, for someone who didn't like the spotlight, like me, I doing improv, I was like, I love this, but I wouldn't have done improv without that foundation of Toastmasters and helping me get through my fear of public speaking and be okay with impromptu speaking. Having that foundation, I was like, okay, I want to level up and try improv. And honestly, it's been such a game changer for me. Like you said, having that creative outlet and being able to play and express yourself, it's been really fun. And I've really embraced impromptu speaking, improvly speaking now.
I think that's amazing. And it's such a skill. A lot of people are not great at improv. They'll blank out. Like you said, they'll be too shy. They don't want to come out of their shell. That was some feedback that I got from one of my acting coaches. He saw all this potential and he started to get upset. We're emotional, we're artsy. And he said, stop being afraid to look stupid. And it was
Mm.
harsh advice, but he was right. I was holding back because I was afraid of what other people would think of me, but I cannot fully jump into this role or I cannot fully embrace my creativity and bring out the characteristics of this person or really immerse myself in this scene if I'm afraid to look stupid. He told me that years and years ago, and now I am so not afraid to look stupid or embarrass myself or play the role of a kid and suck my thumb or something like that. I'm not afraid of that because it's a part of who I am.
I love that. Yeah, and I'm working at that. Like, I still have a bit of me that's like when I'm in my improv scenes and improv for comedy, there's a lot going on. There's a lot of rules, even though improv feels freeing, there are still some rules. I want to be supportive. But yeah, that whole not looking stupid, like, you have to get over that. And I think that has really leveled up my public speaking too, because I'm still working on the comedic side of things, but I'm willing to like just get up and say things. Like, my whole tall tale speech, I pretended like I fell into a swamp and like gators were trying to eat me. And I was like, I have no problems with that. That's fun. to me, and it took a while to get there. But improv's definitely helped. So I appreciate you sharing your journey there, your improv journey.
Thank you.
Well, and as speakers, we have to be prepared for anything, right? Like you mentioned your speech and you know what you're going to say. Maybe you've scripted it or you have your outline, however you prepare, but things come up while we're on stage. The PowerPoint doesn't work or there's a weird siren alarm that goes off. I've heard one where like a mariachi band started playing in the middle of someone's talk. So, can you recall any improvised moments you've had on stage, and how did you handle it?
The one that is popping up in my mind and coming to the forefront is when, and I think it might have been in LA. I was on a stage and it was one of those stages that has pieces, like big square pieces that they push together. And I like to wear heels when I speak. And I was walking and I was speaking and my heel got stuck in between the crack.
Oh my gosh.
And at first I tried to carry on, but it's not gonna work. So I had to creatively and in a humorous way tell the audience that my heel was stuck and rip it out and get a laugh and then move on to the remainder of the speech. But that was, oh my gosh. That's the only time that ever happened to me.
Yeah, I was wondering how you handled it. You ended up getting it out. You didn't have to go barefoot on stage or anything.
No, I just ended up, I forgot how I transitioned and I may have used some type of metaphor or simile as far as
Yeah.
public speaking. When you don't practice for public speaking, it's like when your heel gets stuck in the stage and you just got to yank it out or something like that. I tried to make it funny so that people wouldn't freak out or people wouldn't look at me like, oh, see, world champion, you can't even walk in heels. I tried to handle it with class.
Very nice. Nicely done. Yeah, that and those things happen, and I could just speak from my, like, nervous self. If something like that happened, I would be like, "Oh my god, that's it wasn't perfect. Oh, people are gonna be freaking out and, like, talking about that, and they're gonna judge me," and I'm definitely in a better place, and certainly you are, like, you accept it, acknowledge it, and you're like you make a joke about it, and then you move on, and then you create an even more genuine moment because you recognize that something happened and you called it out.
But most of the time when we make mistakes, the audience doesn't even know.
Mhm.
That's
Yeah.
something that we forget. Well, a lot of the time, they don't know your speech. They weren't there when you practiced. They probably didn't even know my foot was stuck until I actually said something because it wasn't dramatic. It wasn't like, oh, oh, oh. It was just like, okay. They probably would have never known, but I can't be stuck in that one place because I like to move around on the stage. But if we misalign, if we go out of order for some reason, usually the audience doesn't even know. It's when we point it out and say, "Oh, I'm sorry," or "No, I just messed up." When we point it out to the audience that we made a mistake, that makes them aware. Usually they don't even know. They have no idea.
And speaking of your preparation, so how do you like to prepare for presentations and speeches? Do you script out a lot of it or you work off of an outline at this point?
I still love to script out my speeches. Now, some speeches that I give over and over, I won't because I know them. I've given them so many times.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. However, I'm speaking on Friday at a company called NG about overcoming indecision. I've never given that
Mm.
speech before. So of course, I scripted it. I have a PowerPoint, but I don't want to rely on my PowerPoint. I want to rely on the stories that I want to tell, the organization and structure of the presentation itself so that it can flow along with the PowerPoint because it's a visual aid. The PowerPoint is not my presentation, it's an aid to my presentation. So I like the outline, I like to script it, and then I rehearse until I hate what I'm reading. When I hate, and I say, when I practiced for the World Championship of Public Speaking, I did not want to use the word still standing ever again because I had practiced it so many times. But if I don't hate it, then I know that I'm not there yet. If I don't despise the speech because I've practiced it so many times, then I know that I'm not ready. Once I get to that point where if I say this again, I'm literally going to jump out the window. Like until I get to that's my point. That's when I know it's like, okay, I have it. So I want to practice to the point where, as I mentioned, I can do it in my sleep. I can do it in the dark. I can do it if one person shows up or if 1,000 people show up. That's how I like to do. I like to outline, script, rehearse.
I love that threshold. Like, you do it enough to where you're like, "Okay, I don't like this anymore, and I'm not gonna change it because I don't like it. I recognize that it's good stuff, but I don't wanna say it anymore until I say it in front of an audience." Yeah. That's
Yes.
good. That's a good threshold.
I get disgusted with it because I just do it so much.
Oh, I love it. Thank you for sharing that little tip there, because that's good, and again, that helps you with your timing and everything, making sure you stay on time too.
I don't know if you remember the Karate Kid movies, but in the Karate Kid, it was the wax on, wax off.
Uh-huh.
And he was so irritated with the wax on and the wax off until he actually had to do it. Then it was like, oh, now I see. And even in the modern day Karate Kid with Will Smith's son, when he had to pick his jacket up and put it on the rack, pick his jacket up and put it on the rack over and over and over and over and over to the point where he was like, oh my gosh, if I pick up this jacket one more time. But then when it came down to the movements, it was smooth, it was seamless. Same thing with my public speaking and my preparation.
Oh, I love that. Okay. All right, you're inspiring me to practice more because, to be honest, I've been relying on my improv skills a bit, and I facilitate more workshops. So, more of my job is to explain the exercises well and then give people a chance to experience them and then lead them in a debrief discussion on what they learned and took away from the exercises. So, I've taken a break from like the traditional speeches, and it's more like, how can I facilitate this in an appropriate and safe way for them. But in the sense too, it's like also planning out and timing and explaining the exercises correctly and efficiently too, and not confusing the audience. So now I'm feeling more motivated to to practice and really hone in my presentation skills, which will help me in my timing.
But I think that my way is a way. It's not the way. Whatever works for you, I think that you should stick with it. And I never want people to think that, oh, I have to practice this a million times because you may not have to, or I have to script it out. Bullet points may work for you. This is just what works for me. And it has worked for me in a way where it's allowed me to be very successful with my speaking.
I love that. And I want to call attention to an Instagram live message that I saw you do recently. I know you do a lot of kind of talk to the camera videos. You're really good at it. I'm still working on that. Letting go of perfection there. And one of your messages was let it be ugly and figure it out as you go. It was kind of in reference to your website, your business, as you're getting started, like you're not going to have all the answers. And I really appreciate that because in improv, it's all about letting go of that perfection and embracing mistakes and learning from them. And I like that also, let it be ugly. How have you seen like the let it be ugly in yourself and then how it's grown over time?
I just, what is it? Analysis paralysis?
Uh huh. Yeah.
You always trying to wait till no, I have to wait until it's perfect. I have to wait until I have funding from all my investors. I have to wait until I find the perfect graphic designer. I have to wait until everything is just in perfect alignment. That causes us to not do anything. And we look up 10 years later and we still don't have the business, or we still have never given that speaking engagement that we wanted to give 10 years ago. When I say do it ugly, I don't mean just throw some slop together. I
Hmm.
don't mean to just be lazy about it. Do the absolute best that you possibly can at that moment. Put your energy and effort into it. But I'm not a graphic designer, but I created my website. Is it top notch? Is it elite? Is it up to par with Tony Robbins? Not yet, but I
Yeah.
have a website. Instead of saying, no, my website is still under construction, then I'm losing business. Then I'm losing potential clients. Then I'm losing credibility because people are going to ask you for your website because all the professional people have websites. It's not the best, it's not the greatest, but I have it done. And now I have the ability to make it beautiful and to find that person who can come in and say, okay, this is horrible, this is horrible, I'm going to change everything. But the point is I have I have a foundation. A lot of us want to wait until the perfect timing, but that leads to procrastination. That leads us to making excuses. That leads us to being able to say, I would have done it, but I just never found the right person. That's not going to get you to where you want to go. If you are still a beginner at something or a novice at something, do your best. Try to find the best resources at the lowest cost, but just get it done. Don't be so focused on everything having to be perfect, for lack of a better term. Everything doesn't have to be perfect. It just needs to get done.
Thank you. Yeah, I love that. I've been thinking about that actually recently. I was looking back and I think around this time that we're recording mid-September 2023, I started recording for this podcast mid-September 2022, almost exactly to the date too. And I didn't have my first episode launch until November 2022, but I started recording in September. And even before that, I was in analysis paralysis of what do I use to record? And I had a podcast previously with a friend, and I was like, do I use the same thing? Do I want to change it? And like, what changes? And it was exhausting. It was just like, let's just keep the same process. I know what works. I know what's worked in the past. Let me keep that. I can change it later. And anyway, I say that just start, right? Just start and figure it out as you go. And it's cool to see a year later, like I'm still doing it. I have changed some things, but it's been a really fun journey. And when I first started solo podcasting, it felt like this big thing of I got a big production, I gotta release it, and I'm nervous of what everyone's gonna think. And now I'm at the point, this is just a part of me. This is a thing that I do. This is a thing in my life. And it feels good, but it's also not this huge production anymore that it was.
And you're getting it done. You're doing it. And you can look back at your growth, and it's so motivating and inspiring, and it boosts your confidence to see where you started and where you are, and even where you want to go. I am proud of you. I think that's amazing. So claps for
Oh,
you.
thank you. Yeah, and those first episode recordings, like, they were good, but they had some ugly pieces, quote unquote ugly, and like I was still figuring out how to be an interviewer. I still have room to grow, but I would never finish the question too. I'd be like, so blah 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 blah, blah and then this and then like I wouldn't pause to like stop. Here's the question, and I've learned that through listening a lot to myself. Of just ask the question and then stop and let them respond, and that again is growth there.
I think it's all about growth. We are constantly comparing ourselves to other people. I feel like that's another thing that we often do. Well, my podcast doesn't sound like this podcast, or my
Mhm.
speech doesn't sound like this speech. I have to change it to be better. When you have to block out all of that, because we know compromise is the killer of joy. We don't want to kill our joy, especially for something that's new to us and exciting. The best way for you to get discouraged is to go look at somebody else who's been doing it probably 55 years longer than you, and compare yourself with one episode of a podcast to someone who has 101 episodes. Run your race, stay in your lane, learn, develop, of course, get better, improve, but embrace yourself where you are. This is where I am right now, but I know that I will get better, but I cannot get better if I never start.
And honestly, it takes hearing that message multiple times because, yeah, I've conquered podcasting a little bit, I've gotten going. The process is good and it's great. But then there are other things that come up and you have to be reminded of that and other things. And this podcast is all about focusing on creative outlets and encouraging our listeners to try new things. We're talking about that now. Ramona, how do you handle trying new things and being a beginner? And is there something you want to dabble in as we're getting through to the new year?
I love trying new things because I know it helps me grow. It helps me learn a new part of myself and explore different layers of who I am that I never knew I was or could be. What are some new things that I'm working on? I'm going to start a podcast next year. I have no
Yes.
idea about equipment and things like that, but I know that it's going to be a journey. And I'm looking forward to the journey because that's going to be something else that I'm able to learn how to do and to maybe eventually teach others how to do. And it's going to give my audience another way to connect with me and with other great speakers. And I hope that you come on my show as well. It's called
Absolutely.
I Dream of Speaking. Another thing I wanna learn how to do is how to keep a plant alive. I don't know how to keep a plant alive. I wanna try that.
Oh, that's such a good goal.
Right? I don't have and green thumbs run in my family, and I don't have a green thumb. But it's just all about taking risks to evolve because I am constantly evolving. I don't want to be the same woman that I was last year. I don't want to be the same position in my career or even in my relationships. I want to always continue to ascend and to improve and to add value to anyone who I encounter, anyone at the grocery store. I want to be able to continue to inspire and move and motivate and teach. And I'm not going to be able to do that if I don't sometimes take risks. I would have never been able to connect with so many people globally if I would have been afraid to go to Middle Eastern countries as an American or to
Mhm.
travel alone as a woman. I would have never been able to get those experiences and share so many magical moments and just get this new understanding of humanity by traveling to all these different places had I not took the risk to do so. I know a lot of people would have been overthinkers. They'd have been like, well, you got to think about well, all those Middle Eastern countries and all the things, the stereotypes and the negative things and all the myths about women in these different countries. And they'd have been like, well, no, I can't do it. Or they would have allowed their families to talk them out of it or just traveling on a plane. Some people have never been on a plane. It's like,
Mhm.
how do you know the pilots and this? People just overthink it so much that they talk themselves out of potentially life transforming experiences. I'm not going to do that. Anything that I can embrace that I'm passionate about, I want to. I'm actually thinking about going into a leadership position with another company that is for women who are in transition from drug addiction, anxiety, alcohol, mental health, thinking about being a director over there. I even started making pickles. I start pickling cucumbers, and they're good.
Yes. They are. They are really good.
They are delicious. But just trying new things and not leaving what I forget how the quote goes, but not leaving this earth with your music still inside of you. I have a mission statement. I create a mission statement every few years. And it says that I am so happy and grateful that I lived a life where I had to create more music because I released all the music that I had inside of myself.
Oh my gosh, that's beautiful, and I, love every word that you said there because it's just my anxiety is really high, and I've been working with a coach on this. I think post-COVID, my anxiety is higher than it used to be, and I get in those places of like, "Well, what could go wrong? And this could happen if I travel, and, oh my god, what if this happens and I'm stranded, blah, blah, blah," and they've been coaching me on, "Hey, your default is what could go wrong? How about we work on changing your default to what could go right? And how can this be fun and
Mhm.
easy and enjoyable? And trust that if something comes up, you can handle it and you'll be fine." And yeah, so just hearing that, like the fear of flying, or there's so many fears that we have that prevents us from getting started. But we really want to start. We want to do the thing that we've been dreaming about, but there's so much that holds us back. And let it be ugly and just take the risk. I love that.
Joyce Meyer says, feel the fear, but do it anyway. Be scared,
Mhm.
but do it. I was at an Airbnb with my son over the weekend and I saw a centipede. I was afraid, but I had to end the poor creature's life because I had to defend my son. I don't like murdering animals, but for my son to be able to sleep, I had to do it. But I was afraid. My heart was beating fast. But I felt the fear and I did it anyway. So even if you feel scared or shaky or anxious or you feel like everything is going to go wrong, just try it. Just do it anyway and see how it comes out. Usually we fear things that will never ever even happen. I used to be scared
Mhm.
of monsters attacking me under my bed. Hasn't happened yet. So
Mhm. Yeah, and, in the improv world, there's phrases like "no, but," or "no, because," or "yes, but," that we throw out there that, like, that's our fears talking, but what if we say "yes, and keep saying "yes, and" to
Mhm.
situations and see what comes up there. And we can form ideas from the 4th or 5th yes and that we would not have gotten to if we had shut it down right at the beginning and said, "No, I can't do that because I'm not ready. I'm not experienced. I'll have to go back to school. I don't have the money. I don't have the time. But what if you say, yes, I can start a podcast and I'll figure out what equipment to buy. And I'll invite all of my awesome public speaking friends on, and we'll have amazing conversations, and we'll change people's lives for the better, right? What a better discussion that is by saying yes and.
Ooh, that's powerful. That is so powerful because it all boils down to your mindset and what you tell yourself and the thoughts that you think.
Well, and that I always end with this question for our guests here. I always ask, about the yes and mindset. So I've teed it up already. You've kind of already answered it, but we'll see what comes up here. How do you embody a yes and mindset or growth mindset in your life?
Affirmations daily,
Mm,
daily
mhm.
affirmations. Right now, we are in the middle of Iyanla Van Zant, that's where I first heard of the 40 Days of I Am challenge. And it's for 40 days, you write 40 positive affirmations, you starting with I am. And I've done it several times, but now I started to incorporate that into my coaching. And so I have a handful of women who are doing that with me. And just to write down those amazing things about yourself every single day, I feel like I could fly right now because I'm constantly affirming myself and it's all positive. We don't say, I am dumb, I am fat, I am lazy. No, I am energetic, I am abundance, I am love, I am essential, whatever those amazing words about yourself that you're feeling. And even if you don't feel them, still writing them down, it's so powerful. And you do it every day for 40 days. But in general, just doing those daily affirmations and being mindful of what you put in your mind, because what you put in your mind comes out your mouth. So the books that I read, the music that I listen to, the conversations that I have is all positive and it's high frequency. That is how I keep a positive mindset and a positive attitude. I've learned that this thing right here is going to set the tone for everything else in my life. If I had a lack mindset versus an abundant mindset, I'm going to think that this month in my business, I only made $10,000, but I need to make 100K, but I can't. That's lack. An abundant
Mhm.
mindset says there's millions of billions of clients that you haven't even tapped into yet. Go get that. There's the bajillions and tribillions of dollars out there just waiting for you to manifest it and to attract it. So I just be very careful and be very gentle and understand the fragility and the sensitivity of my mind and my brain and my thoughts.
Beautifully said again. Yeah, that mindset is key. And it's everything, and I notice at times, like, it dips, and then I feel like sometimes I'm on a roller coaster, and if I can just, get off that roller coaster and have a consistent, just, like, train ride, like a tram ride around where it's like I'm on that abundance train ride. I don't know where I'm going here, but, like, instead of the roller coaster of emotions, I'm gonna say yes and more because I have that mindset.
Well, I still allow myself to feel. Like when I took my son, because my son lives 1,200 miles from me. And that
Mhm.
was by choice because I was traveling so much. There was no way I was going to be able to keep up with
Right.
that. And his dad is in Ohio. And his dad was like, hey, you travel, just leave him with me. And when I left my son and I dropped him off at school Monday, I cried because my heart was
Mm.
broken. That's my firstborn only child. And to have to leave him is heartbreaking. But I let myself feel those feelings and I call it letting it flow down the river. I allowed
Mhm.
myself to feel and to cry and to miss him and to miss his hugs and his kisses and waking up to him in the bed next to me. I allowed myself to feel that. But the difference is I didn't get stuck in it. I didn't allow it to stick to me. I didn't allow myself to get consumed by the thoughts and then dive into a rabbit hole of depression. I let myself feel it. I'm sad. I'm going to miss him. That's my child. Oh, why? Oh, why did I choose this lifestyle? And then I
Mm.
said, I'll be back. I'll be back to see him in a couple of weeks. I made this decision to show him that you can travel the world, you can be a global citizen, you can achieve your dreams, and he's going to get more out of his mom doing these things than his mom not doing these things. I'd rather be extremely successful so my son knows he can do the same thing than resent him and say, it's because of you that I didn't travel. And it's because of you that I could have been this global icon, but I chose motherhood. Let it flow down the river. Just don't get stuck in it.
Oh my gosh. So powerful. Oh my gosh. I cannot wait for the I Dream of Speaking podcast. There will be just episodes galore of this kind of thing. I can't wait for you to start. When are you thinking? Do you have a plan or anything?
First week of January, New Year.
Yes. Bravo. I mean,
Yes.
just all the traveling you do, it is a commitment and you can be great at it.
Thank you.
Well, and okay, so podcast is starting in January. We will definitely look forward to seeing that. What else do you have going on that our listeners can find out more about you and follow you and do all the things, watch all the things you're doing?
You can always follow me on LinkedIn and Instagram and TikTok and Facebook. All of them are Ramona J. Smith. You can visit my website, ramonajsmith.com. That has everything that we have going on. That has the 40 days of I Am Challenge on there. Very small investment of $4.40. I just know that I can't ask people to do this for 40 days and they don't put some skin in the game because you'll fall off the
Uh-huh.
wagon. I have my coaching programs on there. I have my Scale Up Startup Speak Up Challenge. It's a 10-day challenge for professional speakers who want to get those resources like your bio, your speaker one sheet, your headshots, all the things that people are going to be asking you for when you start to embark on this professional paid speaker's journey. We have the Confidently You 6-week confident course, and that is for it is very intensive. So we go to those dark places and we do that shadow work that helps you to realize why you don't like yourself or why you keep repeating patterns that are not healthy for yourself. So we have that going, and good stuff. Upcoming speaking engagements that we do. Everything is on the website. So ramonajsmith.com is going to be the best way to keep up. I'm so accessible. You can reach me a DM on Instagram, a PM on Facebook. You can email me. You can call me 216-309-2341. I'm looking forward to taking on new clients and just meeting new people.
That's funny because in your world champion speech, you were like, "Hey, new husband, new boyfriend, call me," kind of thing. So now you're settled there, but you're like, "Hey, new clients, call me. I'm here for you."
Let's work. I'm a tough coach though, because I'm results driven. So if you're not willing to put in the effort and the energy, I don't want you to waste your time or mine or your money. If you're ready to work and you really want to make some changes in your life as far as speaking and confidence and accountability, let's get this work in.
That's amazing. That's awesome. And coaching you could do in person or virtual, or do you have one or the other that you do?
It's mostly virtual because a lot of my clients are all over. But if you are in the greater Houston area, or if you want to drive to me from wherever you are, you're more than welcome. I don't reimburse for travel. But if you want to do it in person, you can come on down to Houston and we can get it started.
I love it. I love all the things you have going on. I might join that I am challenge because that sounds very fun and accessible and a good
Yeah.
starting point, right?
Yes, it's so much fun. I love doing it every single day. It's the highlight of my day. So this will be the third time that I've done this challenge. And every time I'm never the same. I'm never, never, never the same after these 40 days.
That's awesome. Ramona, I am just so grateful for you coming on, saying yes and to this conversation, and saying yes and to just sharing your story and your skills, your tips. It was so powerful today. It was so lovely to chat with you. I'm eternally grateful for this conversation and for you. Thank you.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for this platform for speakers and people in general. We appreciate being able to share our story. So thank you for doing the work that you're doing, for being consistent, for saying yes and for not giving up after one episode, for your consistency, for your professionalism, for your personality. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
And we will look out for the I Dream of Speaking podcast coming to you January 2024. All right. Make sure to like and
Yes.
follow that one too. And so you can listen to both public speaking podcasts because there will be lots of good stuff on it. And thank you for listening to today's episode. What a dream come true to have Ramona on the podcast. I know I fangirled out in the beginning, but I remember watching Ramona win in 2018 and Of course, I wasn't there in person, but I watched it live on the Toastmaster stream and I was taking notes of all the speakers. I was trying to rank them in my head, like who should win. And as soon as Ramona gave her speech, I was like, oh my God, she won. I know there are 4 or 5 other speakers after her. She crushed it. Like you just had that feeling that she crushed it. And I just remember thinking, oh my God, I hope one day I can meet her. And actually, I saw her speak a year later at one of our Toastmasters district conventions. And I didn't really get to speak with her. Of course, I didn't want to bother her, but I never dreamed in 2018 that I would have a podcast to invite her on. But look at me now. Yay. This is amazing. And I love having this outlet to have such inspirational conversations and just get to learn from all kinds of amazing people. I don't think you need to have a podcast in order to have incredible conversations. However, it helps when inviting people to come talk to you to have this platform that I will record it and it will be open for people to listen to and be inspired by. It's nice to be able to email someone and instead of asking, hey, can I pick your brain and learn from you? It's, hey, I want to invite you on as a guest. I want to feature you as a guest. And I want to hear your incredible story and be able to share it with my audience and your audience. And I think that's incredible. So, yay, this is such a moment being here and being able to chat with Ramona and just learn so much from her. I'm still like freaking out a little bit. And, I am so appreciative of Ramona being on today. And I appreciate what she said about filler words. I am not that criticizing of filler words in a normal speaking setting if it doesn't distract from the content. I will agree with her stance that if a professional speaker is getting paid thousands of dollars to speak, it of course should be well prepped, polished, put together. But I say polished hesitantly because I think you can still, sometimes I feel like polished makes this a little stiffer. And I don't want my professional speakers to be stiff so much, but I do want all their content to be prepped and they know what they're going to say and everything. And I think we, for the most part, get that out of our professional speakers. But I think we get caught up in the trap sometimes of, I want to be a professional speaker, so I have to be perfect. And I don't think saying a few ums and ahs makes or breaks your speech, even in a professional speaker setting. What I want out of any speaker, and of course, I am different from you and everyone else, what I look for in a speaker, whether professional or not, is authenticity. Are they being real in the situation? Are they being vulnerable if it's appropriate? Are they sharing stories that help the content further along and help me to understand the content? Are they calm, composed, confident? I want to feel at ease when watching and listening to a speaker because if I'm not at ease, then it will be really hard for me to concentrate on what's said. So I say all that to say, yes, Ramona is absolutely right about the professional speaker sense. And she even qualified it with saying, if you're speaking at a wedding or in a more casual setting and you use a few filler words, no big deal. And I just want to reiterate that letting go of perfection piece, that your speeches do not have to be absolutely flawless for you to be a good speaker. You heard it in Ramona's stories that she makes mistakes as she goes. And a lot of times audiences don't even know that she's made a mistake. They only know it if she calls it out. So it's just getting comfortable with making mistakes and learning from those mistakes and also letting go of perfection and judgment in real time to not be so judgmental of yourself while you're speaking. Whether you're in Toastmasters or not in Toastmasters, I hope you enjoyed the public speaking tips that Ramona shared today. I hope you were so inspired like me. I just Loved listening to her. I could listen to her speak for another hour or two. She's just so fantastic. And I thought everything she shared today was so helpful and inspiring and motivating. I truly believe that anyone can be a great speaker. I've shared in my origin story solo episode and also in other episodes that I used to think that public speaking was something people were naturally good at, and I was not naturally good at it. So I just thought, well, I'm just never going to be a good speaker. And eventually I reached my last straw moment where I was like, I have to work on this for the sake of my career, for the sake of my growth. I have to work on this. And I did. I practiced, I got better at it, and I actually started to enjoy standing on stage and being in the spotlight. And so I say that all to say is that anyone and everyone can be a great speaker, a great public speaker. They can go on to be a professional speaker. And it just takes practice. It takes practice in recognizing your strengths and weaknesses, and also getting feedback from people and implementing the feedback that you find useful. I know Ramona offers one-on-one speaking coaching. I also have a one-on-one and small group improv speaking coaching that uses the tools and exercises of improv to help you get out of your head and judgment zone and become a more confident, relaxed, and trusting speaker. And I say trusting, meaning you trust in your skills and abilities and accept yourself as a speaker for who you are. Ramona said in the episode that her way is a way. It's not the only way. And you have to find what works best for you so that you find your true style, your most authentic speaking style. Wherever you choose to practice and get your public speaking training, I fully support it. Whether it's Toastmasters, Ramona, me, National Speakers Association, or NSA, or there's Dale Carnegie. There's so many ways to practice and become a better speaker. Wherever you choose is great. My stance is that the best public speaking training is the one that you can consistently do and the one that you enjoy doing. And so I hope you find, if this is something you really want to work on in getting better at public speaking, I hope you find that training that supports you in the way you need to feel supported. I also want to mention that Ramona has just come out recently in early 2024 with her I Dream of Speaking podcast. I'll put a link to her new podcast in the show notes so you can check it out. It is fantastic. It's all about mastering the art of public speaking and living confidently so that you feel good on and off the stage, and also sharing our dreams and aspirations as speakers. So I love what it's all about, and I can't wait to tune in and check it out. And now I want to ask you, what was the public speaking tip or light bulb moment that came up for you in today's episode? And how do you see yourself implementing that in your speeches? There were so many great tips, so many things that came up for me, and I'm excited to work those in and just let those help me become a better speaker. I want to hear from you what those tips were that you enjoyed and how you plan to work it in. You can always email me at dana@improvlyspeaking.com. That's DAYNA at improvlyspeaking.com. You can DM me on Instagram at improvlyspeaking. I'm on LinkedIn at Dana Gowan. And of course, you can find my website and other offerings at improvlyspeaking.com. In improv and theater and drama, there's the saying, break a leg. When you're going out on stage or you have a show, oh, break a leg. And I love that saying. And I just want to say to you to break all the metaphorical legs in your speeches and presentations. You have everything inside of you to be a great speaker. Your stories and messages need to be heard, and we want to hear them. Keep practicing, making mistakes, learning from those mistakes. Keep going, growing, and glowing to become the best speaker and impromptu speaker you can be. I'm so excited for your public speaking journey. I hope you're excited about it. I love talking about this stuff, if you can't tell, and I've so enjoyed this episode today. Go out and flex your creative thinking as well. I'll talk to you next time.